Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to today's bonus upload. Before we jump on into it, a couple quick links. As many of you may know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. These audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share this video. Why? Well, because these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's bonus, shall we? Today's first encounter comes to us from 1 hour outside of Huntsville, Alabama, back in February 9th of 2020. This experience is not easy for me to share. My family and I spent my entire childhood and then some on a private few acres in Alabama. The amount of supernatural and unnatural occurrences on that land could fill a book, ranging from ghosts, demons, strange lights, and sounds, just to name a few. The worst of my experiences is one that I do not share with many people. Telling people that you've encountered something outside of the norm doesn't bode well in the best of times. And growing up in a family where most of my family suffered from drug abuse and alcoholism, I was afraid that would be the accusation. That I had followed the path of most of my family members and gotten on drugs. But I stand by the fact that I never did. I tried weed a couple of times, and as an adult I drink once in a while. That's it. Still, I tried to forget this encounter, even trying to convince myself that it was a dream, but I know better. I have shared another experience and it felt good, so I thought I would delve deeper and share the worst one, hopefully with the same results. Another reason, and adamantly it's not the main one, is that hopefully this can inspire people to not immediately think that they are crazy or alone when seeing things like this. It happens, and while society may not believe you, others have shared experiences, and we are all in this strange hole together. So to get started, I have to say that I used to love the woods. I would constantly head out to the woods after school to simply explore. There were supposed to be old coal mines and caves out in the woods, and instead of being smart and avoiding them, I went looking for them. Spoiler alert, I never found one. We also didn't have an internet connection at the time. It wasn't common, and my mom and dad worked, so no ride to friend's house. So my options for passing time were limited. Most of my experiences out in the woods were uneventful, but one freaked me out. And the other caused me to never go into the woods on that land again. I wouldn't go outside at night for a couple of years after this. My entire family can vouch for that one. I used to walk with my grandmother all the time, since she lived within walking distance from our house. Since it was family land, but after this experience, I never walked to her house once the sun had set. Like any other evening, I was home from school, homework not done, and I was out in the woods exploring. I actually got home last off of the bus, so it was around 5 p.m., seeing as how I got home at 4, and I had been in the woods for a while now. So the sun is starting to set, but I still had enough time to play. I was near the old graveyard that our land met at. I believe it was a Civil War graveyard, or at least most of the people buried there were Civil War veterans. It was extremely overgrown and abandoned. I had my dog with me. Her name was Toomer, because she was extremely overexcited and a playful dog that would literally dive head first off of our porch to come and meet us when we got home. But she never landed on her feet. She would slam onto the ground, jump up, charge at us, wanting to be pet or food, I'm not sure. So my sister named her Toomer. So she was with me and was ecstatic to be part of the adventure that we did every day. But she acted like it was the first time around the graveyard I kept looking for the supposed mine cave entrance that my brother swore he had found, but I didn't see anything. I started to climb up this big hill that actually peaked at the edge of the graveyard. When I smelled it, I can't explain it except to say that it smelled horrible. Like rotten meat or decay, Toomer did as well, and was being extremely still, staring up the hill, which was extremely unusual for her. She was usually the first to charge at unknown things, whether it be a deer or another dog. My initial thoughts were that someone had thrown a deer carcass in the graveyard. It wouldn't be the first time. I kept climbing, having to look down at my hands and feet to make sure I didn't lose my footing. It was extremely steep, and I would have to grab small trees that were poking out from the hill to keep from sliding. Toomer then made this horrible, yelling bark that I hadn't heard her ever make before, and then she ran down the hill. I didn't get a chance to see where she went. I looked up and saw what I thought for a split second was a huge dog staring down at me. But it didn't take long to realize that it was something else. I was downhill and not extremely tall, so I can only guess, but this thing stood 6, maybe 6.5 feet tall. It was on its hind legs, but I didn't get a chance to analyze whether or not the legs were bent backward like I've since heard in descriptions. I stared at its eyes and its teeth, and that's all I remember. My legs gave out, I couldn't breathe, and I fell. I had never passed out before, and I am not entirely sure that's what happened here. But the next thing I know, I was at the bottom of the hill, scratched to hell from the brush, and feeling sick to my stomach. The sun was still up, but I felt like maybe time had passed. I'm not sure how long. The smell was still there, but I didn't see anything. I don't remember every detail for the next hour or so. I know somehow I got to my feet, and I know somehow I ran home. I wasn't far exactly, but in that moment, it could have been miles for me. I got home and I cried. Even sharing this makes me emotional, and I'm not entirely sure why, because this thing, as horrifying as it was to be that close to knowing it could have killed me, didn't do a thing that I'm aware of, not even a growl. But I'm not sure if I just got shocked and passed out, or if I'm just a coward and fear made me lose consciousness. All I know is that the fear itself was not normal. I mean, sure, it was scary, but this was something else. It wasn't like I had walked on an animal. It was like I had stumbled upon fear, and that's all that existed. I know this is a very storybook way of describing it, but I find that writing it out like this makes it a little less real. Like it didn't happen. It happened to this character in a story, and it helps me get through. Over a decade later, and I still get random waves of fear at night. Someone tried breaking into our home months ago, but my mind wondered if it was that thing and not a person. I have no reason to think that other than fear. A detail that stands out, other than the fact that this was a very large wolf or dog-looking head on a very wide fur-covered body on 2 legs, was its eyes. Its eyes were black, that I don't remember seeing pupils. It didn't have the glowing yellow or red eyes or human-looking eyes that I've heard about. They looked black. Sorry for the long story and for the huge setting up part that went way longer than the actual event itself. I think I was procrastinating. Anyway, stay safe, guys. Keep digging. And thank you for the opportunity to share. I was a bit reluctant coming forth with this particular experience because of how outlandish it sounds. And honestly, I feel like people don't believe me when I share it. But I'll always remember it and know what I saw. No matter what anyone says, I find it interesting. For centuries, people saw dogmen or werewolves and believed in them. Now, hardly anyone believes, but they believe in Bigfoot. Now there are Bigfoot experiences with very few dogman or werewolf sightings. I believe that people see a giant hairy creature and instantly jump to Bigfoot instead of dogman now because of this, but what I saw was definitely more canine than ape or man. I was living in Alabama, the same place where I saw a strange light and where my brother saw the white thing. So you could say about an hour outside of Huntsville. As for my age, now again, it's been a while, and I haven't talked about it for some time, but it was roughly the same time as the light, maybe a few months in between. So I was a younger teenager. I always say about 10 years ago, but in truth, I think it was a little more. My best guess is around 14 or 15. Sorry, I can't give you the exact age. Between life's happenings and just kind of burying this, the details do kind of get buried sometimes. Also, I wanted to add that Toomer was fine. She was at home waiting for me. Oh, and I was close enough that I could see its eyes and smell it. But I didn't hear it approach. I just had that smelling something. Toomer made the screaming sound and ran. I looked up and saw it. And when I actually registered what I saw, I fell, and that was it. I would say maybe 12 feet or less. I'm not 100% sure, but like I said, it was close. Tonight's second encounter. First, I'm a medium, and I have a few other paranormal gifts. When I'm around anything paranormal, I get a buzzing type feeling, actually two. One lets me know it's a good entity, the other that it's an evil entity. This happened when I was 12, so I didn't know or understand about the buzzing feeling, so I don't remember that part, if I even recognized it. My best friend and I took turns sleeping over at each other's home. He lived in a small town, about 1,500 people. It was 2 miles long by about 1.5 miles wide. We always slept out in his treehouse. That way, once his parents fell asleep, we could just sneak out and roam the town. We did stupid stuff like one Halloween, we rolled the the building. Took a case of toilet paper, since we just wrapped the building, including the screen door. The whole building was 15 feet wide by 30 feet long, so it wasn't hard. Except I felt sorry for the police officer working inside at the time, when another cop on duty showed up. Anyway, that wasn't the night I'm talking about. The night in question, we had made it probably 4 miles from his house, on the far side of town. It got to be about 3 a.m. when there was a wreck or a shooting or something. The one town cop on duty shows up, and there were about 5 or 6 county deputies showing up, plus an ambulance. So we decided it was time to go home. We walked just a little ways, then decided that if we cut through the cemetery, we could cut almost half the distance home. So we started across the cemetery. Just before the halfway point, we started to hear a growling. I recognized that growling, but that was another story for another day. The farther we went, the louder it got. Then I could hear it coming from 2 different directions. We could hear twigs snapping the whole time, but we could never see anything. Finally, after about 100 feet, we both stop and look at each other. Then we both slowly look behind us. Floating in midair were 2 red eyes. There was no body visible, just 2 large red eyes. I knew immediately that this was a hellhound. Don't ask me how. I just knew. During the whole encounter, they floated between 3 to 5 feet off the ground. but no time during the encounter did we see a body. Whatever it was standing there was just growling at us. We stared at those eyes until they bobbed. If it had a visible body, you would have seen the whole body flinch. We turned and ran, and didn't have to tell each other to run. We both just ran. Right after we start to run, I turn and look, and now there are two sets of eyes following us. We were running as fast as we could. If you looked at how the eyes were bounding, you could tell these things had some extremely long legs. We ran close to 150 yards. Those things were just about to catch up. They should have caught up right after we started running. We finally made it to the 4-foot-high stone wall surrounding the cemetery. We managed to just jump over, and the exhaustion kicked in as we went across the wall. So we just stood there, bent over, trying to catch our breath. We watched the first one come over, flying across the wall. That's the only time we saw a body, only because as it crossed the center line of the wall, the body started glowing. Imagine something that looks like a pit bull crossed with a Rottweiler, with the stance of, I believe they're called an English bulldog. It was about double the size of a St. Bernard or bigger. The skin looked like black leather, but really couldn't tell since it was on fire inside out. Right as it hit the ground, it exploded. Needless to say, the second one stopped inside of the cemetery, making this sound that was a cross between a growl and a bark. There was something about the confines of the cemetery that allowed it to exist, but it couldn't exist outside of the cemetery. We walked home in silence, and as we went to bed, we kind of discussed the events for about 5 minutes and never talked about it again. I'm convinced that this was a retaliation for events I had mentioned earlier, where me and him got ourselves by accident involved in an original paranormal situation. These two situations are what got me involved in paranormal work. These two events led to the ending of our friendship. No fighting or anything. Things were just so awkward that we couldn't continue. It's third experience. I'm going to share with you an experience my son has never put it out publicly, nor has my ex-partner. I was not there that night, but this is what they told me why they came home. My ex-partner was a security guard for a golf course on Woodmill Lane in Southampton, Hampshire, United Kingdom. He was on his usual shift that night. Not too much happened down there, so my son had joined him at work for the night. They also had our 2 security-trained dogs with them. Both dogs will attack on command. They were patrolling the area, just walking the course with the dogs on the lead. They both said they did hear noises in the wood line and presumed it was just a deer or another animal. They ignored it and continued to walk and patrol the area. As they were passing one particular clump of brush, the dogs started to go mad. They were both barking and snapping and pulling on the leads and running as close to the brush as the lead would allow, at which point something they cannot describe made a horrible howling screech and set off running toward the wood line. The dogs strained so hard that my ex-partner dropped the leads and the dogs were in hot pursuit. As the dogs got into the woods and the trees, they couldn't be seen. Then there was a yelp and both dogs ran back the way they had come, heading straight to my ex-partner. One of the dogs was clearly injured and was limping badly on one leg. As they were seeing the dogs and checking over into the woods, they heard a splash in the stream, as if whatever it was the dogs chased had jumped into the water. When I asked what it looked like, they both described a creature as around 6.5 to 7 foot tall. It was very hairy, dirty, and unkempt. They have really only ever told very close friends up until now. My son is fully grown now, and we were together the other day, and that night the incident was mentioned again. And I remember at the time how my son looked when he came home. He was white as a sheet and quite ill-looking. It was at least a week before the dogs would return to the area, and they were all shaken up quite badly, and my son has never returned to the golf course. Tonight's fourth experience. I grew up in New Jersey. My parents owned a small lakeside cabin in Fayette, Maine. Fayette is very rural. The camp is somewhat isolated. The road we were on didn't even have a name other than Fire Road 18. It was unpaved. The camp was about 50 feet from the lake, built onto a hill. There was no basement. It was built on stilts. The lake-facing side had a deck. It was approximately 15 feet off the ground. It was about 2 feet off the ground on the other end. Every year we would go up there on vacation for a few weeks in the summer. My experience is for the year of 1982. It was August. I was 6 years old. We were staying there for 3 weeks that year, and it was a pretty hot summer. It was cooler than New Jersey, but still hot. The incident in question occurred after we had been there for about a week. For some quick background, my dad had severe sleep apnea at the time and had not yet had corrective surgery, so he snores very loudly. When we were at home in New Jersey, you could hear him snoring from my parents' room 3 flights up. Because of this, I could sleep through anything short of a nuclear blast. Also, I would sleepwalk occasionally. It never happened at home, only at camp. Sometimes I would wake up outside. I also would have reoccurring nightmares that I really didn't understand. But now I think they were about a cult. The cabin was small, consisting of one bedroom that my parents slept in, the other room that was the kitchen, living room, and my bedroom, and a small half bath. My room was a double bed with a curtain around it. The day this happened was a very beautiful sunny day. We had spent the day on the lake, and I was exhausted when we got home. We had some friends over for dinner, and I went to bed almost immediately after. Several hours later, I was awoken by the cabin shaking violently and a high-pitched, rage-filled squeal. I could hear my mom in the other room asking my dad, just what the hell is going on? Dad had no idea. They debated on going out to look, but my mom pointed out that they had no idea what we were dealing with, and we don't have any weapons. I'm paralyzed in fear, cowering in my bed, not moving. My parents remained quiet. After a few minutes, the squeals turned into grunts and growls, and the shaking stopped. I could hear light scratching coming from the floorboards under my bed. Where my bed was, the floorboards were at least 8 feet off the ground. We heard a thumping on the stairs out back, and my heart started to race. I was terrified. The back door was flimsy. I was afraid it would come up the stairs and bust through the door. Thankfully, it didn't. I heard some crashing of twigs and rustling of leaves as whatever it was lumbered off into the woods. I ran to my parents' room, and I ended up falling asleep with them in their bed. In the morning, we went out to look under the cabin, and underneath where my parents' room was, there was several long, deep scratch marks in the wood. The floorboards were made of a thick hemlock. My mom surmised that my dad's snoring had either attracted or enraged some sort of creature. So, in short, there was growling, grunting, squealing, long-clawed creature that had at least an 8-foot reach. I did not have any realized encounters with this unknown creature again. I would hear odd noises at night, but didn't have the kind of conjoins it would take to investigate. Its final experience. I live in West Virginia, and I have all my life. I didn't come from a rich family, and I'm not rich myself. I live in a small, single-wide trailer with my 2-year-old son outside of town of Gary in McDowell County. My boyfriend's a truck driver and is only home every so often. I'm kind of used to being alone with my son here at night. My closest neighbor is 3 miles away, and my trailer is back in the woods. This is a mountain town. I grew up hearing scary stories of monsters, but I never saw anything growing up. I never saw anything until now, and I want to tell you about it. What people are talking about is most definitely what is stalking us here, because I know it's not a Sasquatch. I've never seen a Sasquatch, but I think I would know if I saw one. So, this just started last summer. I clean houses for a living, and I was leaving the last house of the day, and I had just gone to pick my son up from his babysitters, and we were heading back home. It was 8 p.m. exactly when we turned into my driveway. My driveway is a very long, sandy driveway surrounded by trees and woods on both sides. I hadn't even gotten to my house when I saw a man jump from one tree on the right side of the driveway to a tree on the left side of the driveway. I mean, it was at least 30 feet in the air. He just jumped like how a monkey swings from trees. He did this in front of our car as I was still driving slow to get to the trailer. It's bumpy and sandy on the driveway, so I never go more than 10 miles an hour down it. At that moment, I wasn't sure what I saw, but I did know it was a man. I saw its skin, and it had some torn cloth on him, too. Arms, legs, all of what a man would have. I didn't see his face. I hit my brakes, my son still in the back seat, almost asleep. I didn't question what I saw or try to make sense of it because I know it was some creature. Yes, I was scared. My first thought was my son. I only stopped there in my driveway for a second, and then I went ahead and sped up to go on and get down the driveway so I could get into the house with my son. I'm passing those trees to my left, and I'm just looking around to see if it's there. I don't see anything. I just keep on going. It's about dark, but I can still see. I see my trailer around the corner up ahead, and I see movement. Okay, so let me add here that it's not that uncommon for some deer or other animals to be around our trailer. That's normal. But there were people up ahead, and one of them was in my trash bag. I don't have trash service way out here, so I sometimes will set a bag on my porch and haul it myself to the dump. So a man was all in my trash. I get closer, and these people hear my car, and the headlights are lighting up the front area of my house. And I see like 4 of these things run off into the woods. I saw one of them very well, but it was his face that really scared me. The thing had dirt or mud all over its face, and there was something wrong with his face because it didn't look right to me. His eyes were way up on his forehead, and there was a humpback. It had some dark pants on, but no shirt, and its chest and back had a lot of brown hair. His nipples were huge and dark, and I could see through his hair. He was barefoot. This was the one that was digging in my trash bag. He ran off as well, but he didn't seem to be in such a rush as the other ones to get back to the woods. I lost sight of them all, and I waited before I went any further because of my son. I didn't have a gun or anything on me, so I was careful. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, running idle. Before I drove up to the house, I grabbed my son and we ran inside because of no cell signal down in the driveway. I called my uncle once I got inside. My uncle said I was seeing crap, but he came on out an hour later and looked around. Lord, I was so scared while me and my son sat there waiting for my uncle. My uncle gets here. He's a big guy and had weapons with him. He investigated. He came back in the front door white as a ghost. He came in and said he had seen the devil in those woods and that we were getting in his truck with my son and getting the hell out of here. We never called the police or anything. What were we going to tell the police? That was last summer. Winter came and nothing. Then, just past March, my boyfriend was home. He heard scratching at 11 p.m. on the side of our trailer, a metal sound. He went outside to look, but there wasn't anything there. But he smelled an odor that he described as rotten pig feet. If you eat pig feet, then you know what I mean. We smell bad things a lot, and we see things moving in the trees, but now my boyfriend will be moving us to another state because of his job, and we only have a few more weeks here. But there are some wild clans in West Virginian mountains. Alright guys, so the last video clip I had tinkered with about a week and a half ago. My friend, who is a professor at our local SUNY Adirondack College, wanted to show me some photos that he had taken out in the woods and stuff. But he wanted to check out that video. And he tinkered a little bit with it. And I really do feel like that is possibly a real video of a Bigfoot going berserk. I've cross-referenced it with movies and nothing. So, I don't know. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed today's bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.